Welcome to the Realtor Diaries podcast. We are on episode 8, Getting Ghosted or Getting Fired. I'm Kim Jacoby with the Jacoby team of Century 21, and with me,
Elijah McGowan, also of the Jacoby team at Century 21. We're your go-to realtors for Northern California. And so today's topic, getting ghosted or getting fired. I'll go ahead and start us off.
Okay.
And I'm going to start with maybe a weird topic, online leads.
Yeah.
So for our non-realtors, many realtors, including the Jacoby team, pay for online leads, which is when you click a link, you enter your information into a box, it gets sent to us, and then we contact you to see if you want to buy a house or sell a house or whatever the case is.
Or if you have any questions that we can help with.
And a lot of people don't know that when you click those boxes, someone is trying to call you.
Yeah,
Even when you don't click the call me now button.
If you put your email address and phone number into the internet and click register, you will get a phone call from somebody.
Yes, or an email or both.
Yeah.
I think right now we do both and texting.
Yeah.
And I mean, getting ghosted, talk about never being responded to.
Yeah.
I can think of one specific case where someone's super responsive over text, never got them on the phone specifically, but it was the craziest situation. Like, we would text back and forth. They had a situation going on. They were starting to look at the markets, maybe not quite ready to buy yet. And of course, I'm willing to go show them houses, be the realtor. And I can remember 2 separate times we scheduled actual showings.
Yeah.
And I would call them, leave a voicemail, and then we would text for a bit, and then he would call me, leave a voicemail, as I'm driving to the place.
Oh my gosh.
And I would get there, listen to the voicemail, he'd say, "Oh, sorry, I can't make it for whatever reason."
No.
I was like, "Oh, of course, it's fine, we'll reschedule." And twice it happened, for two different properties it happened. And eventually, just radio silence.
Oh, man.
But that's pretty common for online leads because it's anyone and everyone, including yourself.
Yeah.
And you might not be ready to buy. You might be wanting to look at houses. As a person who's been burned by the situation, I'd prefer if you just text me and say, "Hey, I'm just looking around right now."
Right? Yeah.
Because of course I want leads. I want to be able to practice real estate. But I only want to practice that with people who are ready to buy or sell their house and do those things.
I would say just be honest with people. You know, people like us. We're not all telemarketers from another country. We're real people.
It's true.
Not that they're not real people. That came out wrong. Really wrong. We're local. We're local people.
Yes.
Who live in the area that you are interested in living in.
Yep. We're experts and we're your neighbors.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Those of you who work in another country, you're a real person. You are. I know you are. And I'm the fake person. Anyways, let's move on.
Are you okay?
I can't believe I said that. Maybe I'll just cut that whole section out. I don't know.
Audio listeners, don't worry. It'll still be here.
Okay.
But yeah, online leads, every realtor knows the struggle, especially if they've had any kind of success to then go pay for online leads.
Yeah.
It takes an effort, let's say.
Yep. They say, and this is a note for realtors, especially if you're thinking about becoming a realtor or new in the business and you've not experienced the online lead world, it's a numbers game. So the more people you talk to and the more no's you get, you're going to get a whole bunch of no's, a whole bunch of ghosts, and lots of rejection, but eventually you'll hit some yeses too.
And you'll get plenty of tips like that, like numbers game, speed to lead, all these things. You'll find something that works for you, that works for your business.
Yeah. And
it'll probably work out.
In fact, I've heard a stat that for Google pay-per-click ads, a 1% conversion rate, at least for the real estate industry, is pretty normal. That's like average. 5% would be like amazing, like
rocking
you're killing it. 5%. That means let's do 100. For 100 leads, 5 of them would turn into potential business.
Yeah, and that sounds tough.
Yeah, that's 95 no's or nothing at all.
Yep. That's why they say you got to go get 100 no's.
Yeah.
And
that's way above average. The average is 1.
Yes.
1 for every 100. So.
Yeah, but you know what? Getting ghosted isn't always from a new person.
I know. Yeah, getting ghosted is something that I think we all deal with, but getting just straight up fired, that can be tough. I have a story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm leaving names out, of course, because I'm not meaning to bash on anyone at all. But I had this lady who I was helping prepare her home for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I began working with her. We didn't sign a contract or anything, but I'd also been showing them properties because they were going to sell and then buy. And so we got to know each other pretty well. In fact, one evening she invited me to come over to her house for dinner, and so I did, and got to know her on a personal level. And so we had this rapport built up, and I had scheduled some contractors and different things over to her house to make some repairs and
acting as the agent,
painting, things to do to get ready to sell the house. And so then we were talking about exactly what day we were going to make it go live on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, my family and I, because I told her this ahead of time, but my family and I had a vacation planned.
Okay, so you let her know.
Yeah, ahead of time. I didn't spring it on her. And so I said,
it's like, hey, I know we're going to the market today, but we're leaving.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't like that.
I said, I think you have such a hot listing that we better wait till I get back from vacation to put it on the market. That way I can be fielding phone calls as they're coming in, right?
Yeah.
So she said, great, we'll do that. And we'll sign the listing paperwork when you get back.
Okay.
So then we go on vacation, and we were gone, I think, 6 days. And then we got back, and I saw her home on the market with another realtor. I found it myself.
Cheated on you.
Yeah. I didn't even. Gosh. And so I felt like I had gotten kicked in the stomach.
Yeah, right.
Just like, what? And she could do that because I hadn't made her sign a listing agreement ahead of time.
Yeah. If you're not in contracts, I
trusted her. I felt like, like what? It wasn't even a thought in my mind that she would want to use somebody else, because that's not how we were talking.
Yeah.
So then when I called her up, I said, what's going on? And she said, I'm so sorry. We wanted to get it on the market sooner. And so we just went with somebody else.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, well, I'm very sorry to hear that. I wish you all the luck, click. And, I haven't talked to her since.
Yeah, because it's like a betrayal.
Yeah, I felt betrayed.
That's hard.
I did. And I understand, like, she wanted to get it on the market sooner, and she didn't want to wait for my vacation. But,
and I'm sure that if she had called you even while you were on vacation, you would have found a way.
On a human level, I would have appreciated a heads up instead of finding it on the market when I got back from vacation. That was a tough way to find out.
Yeah. Obviously you haven't ever called her again, because that's...
Yeah.
That's just...
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah, if she was a friend before this, or a family member, obviously,
we'd still have a bridge relationship to repair. Yeah. But you started acting as her agent.
Yeah.
You built a relationship over.
It was a professional relationship.
Yeah, but how long was it?
About a year.
Yeah, like a year of getting ready.
Yeah.
And then all it took was 6 days.
Yep.
For her to cut all ties.
And I know most people listening to this right now are going to be like, that's wrong. Like, most people wouldn't have done that. So that's good. I still have faith in humankind.
But that was a rough few months, I imagine, in that time.
It was rough.
Wow. Have you ever had anything else like that?
That was the worst one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's a really bad one.
Yeah.
And I guess, I haven't really spoken to many people who've had that happen to them, but
right.
That's
I've had,
I'm just trying to think it through my mind. It's we do all this work,
and you have no idea that, she didn't indicate to me at all that she wasn't okay waiting after my vacation.
Yeah, it's tough
to her. She was like, "Yeah, this is a great plan. Yes, this is the plan."
Sucker punch.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, And actually, our guest that we have on today's episode, I think she has a similar kind of a story that she's going to share, but it was, I think, with someone that she knew well. So
I know.
Let's listen to her.
I know. Welcome to the guest segment of our podcast. Today we have Marisa Bauer with Platinum Partners.
Yes,
thank you for coming on. She's been in the business for 20 years. Her family loves anything active, specifically backpacking.
Yes.
And she can hold a 7-minute plank.
Used to be able to back when I was younger.
Okay.
But I can probably do it again. I can probably do it.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
I don't even know if I could hold a 1-minute plank, so
Yes, you could.
that's probably pretty good.
And today's topic.
That's my part. I say that. Today's topic is times that we got fired or ghosted from our clients. It happens. It happens.
It's never happened to me.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, you're such a stellar agent.
Oh,
Just
yes.
no failures.
None.
Well, we're human. We're human. And, sometimes we get fired and we didn't deserve it. And so what do you got for us, for our audience in this today?
It happened with one of my many stories. Doing this for 20 years.
Right.
Lots of
it's
stories.
going to happen.
Oh my God, this is really hard to do. I don't know why.
It's fine.
You want me to re-ask the question?
Sure.
But also, if you can't think, the best thing to do is just go silent,
Okay.
because then we can
I
cut.
gotta ask the silent. Okay, let me re-ask the question. So today's topic is times we got fired or ghosted from our clients. And, sometimes we didn't really deserve it, but maybe other times we did.
Or even not your clients yet and you get ghosted.
Right.
It happens.
Right? Yeah, so you have a story or two for us.
Sure. I mean, they're not fun, but I guess if you don't fail, you'll never move forward and learn, right?
That's right.
Mhm.
So one that just came top of mind is probably because I've been doing this for so long and you feel like, hey, you become really good friends with people, and so there's the trust factor. Yeah. And sometimes I don't do the right thing and don't sign a listing agreement right away.
Oh,
so
yeah.
These in particular sellers did want to, when we started talking about them moving, they were going to relocate from their home that they've been in for a long time and raise their family in. And they really, we started talking at the end of spring. They wanted to have one last summer there. Mm-hmm. But they also said, until they're ready to actually go on the market, if myself or any of my teammates had anybody that was interested in looking at it that would allow them to stay through the end of summer, we would, or they would
entertain an offer.
Right, they would let us show it, and so we did show it to multiple people. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Like an in-house kind of
in-house sort of situation.
waiting to go on the market.
Waiting to go. Still should have got a listing agreement signed to make everybody more committed, but we didn't. And we even helped talk with them. We even brought our stager through, which we shouldn't have done beforehand, but helped them start staging and prepping the home and painting and doing some things to prep it.
Sounds just like my story that I shared earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's the same story.
Same
Now it
story.
happens. And all of a sudden we don't hear from her for a few weeks and start reaching out. Got ghosted.
And so most of the time it had just been pretty consistent communication.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, people coming through
had a
as
key
stages.
to the house.
Oh, well, there
I
you
mean,
go.
pretty much when we needed to show it, we could show it.
It was a listing.
It was right.
Yeah.
So after probably a month, we got a phone call. When I say we, because I work on a team, and so we are all very involved.
Yeah.
That from another agent who said, "Hey, my buyers have been ghosting me, and I was curious and trying to figure out what had happened." And she put the story together that these buyers' friends were friends with our sellers, and they started talking, put them in contact, which we're always happy for a buyer and a seller to love a home, and they gave them the time they needed, and they became friends and all of this. But both sides ended up getting ghosted. So the agent who was representing the buyer is who informed us and was very frustrated. Because she had been showing property. They didn't bring her in or involve her at all. And same with us. I mean, we had a key to the house.
So did the seller and the buyer just do it on their own together without realtors?
On their own, without realtors. And I think they ended up going to title company, and
Yeah.
hopefully in the end it all worked out for the seller
Yeah.
and the buyer. But
Oh, so they like truly ghosted you, like just
Full on
never
ghosted.
talked to you again.
well, we followed
Oh,
up and
yeah.
congratulated them and everything like that.
Yeah.
You always want what's best, but at the same time, it's like, oh, we put a lot of effort and energy and time,
energy.
Yeah.
and
We're just not gonna get paid
ultimately,
for it.
we're not going to get paid. But ultimately, it's like we could have figured out a way to make it work for everyone, and then they would have had some legal guidance and counseling and everything like
Yes.
that. But they wanted to save a few bucks, probably.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
So there's a story.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
my
really
gosh.
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
I think a lot of people, I have had, like, I was doing an open house and this gentleman was coming through my open house, and this was in 2024, and he pointed his finger right in my face and he says, realtors get paid way too much money. And, you know, I didn't respond because I didn't have time to, like, educate him on all the hundreds of things that we do,
not to mention
and
it's a
our
little
value
jarring.
and our worth. And what'd you say?
Not to mention it's a little jarring.
Oh, I know. I know. I did
Just
feel
suddenly, you get paid too much.
well, and the finger in the face, my blood pressure went up a little.
Right.
But I was just like, move along.
Right.
You know. But yeah, I mean, to be cut out of and not paid for something, that'd be like if I'm trying to think of an analogy. Let's say I take my car to the mechanic, and I'm like, something's wrong with my car. And the mechanic spends hours
Right.
figuring out what's wrong, and then I'm like, great, thanks, and then I take my car back and fix it myself.
Yeah.
I mean, that mechanic just did all that for free.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so different how our industry is and how realtors get paid, which I don't know, I just think about this. It's like an attorney, or even to ask a question, or my CPA, if I email him some questions about some of my taxes, I get a bill
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
the next
I mean,
week. Like, I wish we could get a bill, but at the same time, it's not how it works.
Yeah. Can you
We also
imagine
have
having
to-
to keep like a time card for each client?
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
That's
because
what
we're
lawyers do.
juggling. I
Right.
know. Yeah.
Right. But how many times have you shown property to a buyer for months
Months.
and months and months, and either they
Years.
end up not buying, finding something that they happen to walk into an open house, although
Yeah.
that's a little bit changed now with all the rules since
Sure.
the NAR settlement, which is good. I think it's great
Yeah.
because the buyers have to commit to you. But in the past, I can think of many times that
Oh,
happened
yeah.
to my teammates or I. Or
Yeah.
Not
oh, I just
mutually
thought of one more
cool.
story.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do
share.
tell.
Okay. Years ago, and it was Lisa, my business partner, but we work like this, so I know
Yeah.
everything that goes on.
Heck yeah.
So she was showing property to some good friends of hers who also he was a CEO. So she
Mhm.
didn't go through the process of getting him pre-approved
Because she
figured
he's
good
got money.
friend,
Yeah.
he's got money.
Yeah.
She showed them nights. It was only nights and weekends for them, which is pretty common in our industry.
It's what happens.
right.
What
But
happens.
still.
But
yeah.
a lot of property.
Oh.
I mean, for months.
Like,
and
would
they
you
were
say
very-
more than 20 houses?
Oh, for sure, more than 20 houses. It was. I mean, I would show property for them a lot if she would go out of town, but it was like every single weekend for probably 4 or 5 months. I mean,
Wow.
Wow.
probably 100 houses.
Wow.
And this was a long time ago when we used to have more homes to show.
Yeah.
And then finally, when they found one that they liked, she
Okay.
started the process, and he had like a bankruptcy or something.
Oh, no.
They had no way to get pre-approved. They didn't tell her about that, but she also blames herself because
Yeah.
she's like, I should have made them talk to a lender or
Mhm.
educated them enough to talk to a lender to understand the process.
The due
Right.
process,
Yeah, because I mean, they were friends, so I could see that the clients wouldn't want to told her something private like that, like,
Right.
yeah, we went through a
Right.
bankruptcy.
Right,
But send them to the lender, and
right.
they can
And
tell
then
the
let
lender.
them- yeah. So that was unfortunate, but that really made us always moving forward, because that was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Sit down with our clients, talk to them about what we do,
Mm-hmm.
have them commit to us because we spend a lot of time with them,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and make sure they're pre-approved before we show them homes.
That's right.
But
I
it's
mean-
it's best for everybody.
Yeah.
They probably also look back and they're like, that was a waste of 5 months of our life at the
True.
same time too. As much
Well,
as
and
we
they-
think it was and we didn't get paid, they probably thought we just spent 5 months of every weekend looking at homes.
They spent a similar amount of time.
Right.
And they
And-
probably got their hearts broken.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
So that was
story.
ghosted / I don't know if that was ghosted.
Right?
It kind of didn't make sense, but it kind of.
They got fired. She got fired by default.
Yeah, there you go.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
But you said it earlier. All these experiences are just what you learn from.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to go through it to know that it's an issue.
Exactly.
Yep. So, like, if you're watching this podcast and you're a realtor, especially if you're newer in the business, we don't know what we don't know, right? And then as we're going through our business and experiencing these ups and downs, we learn from them and we adjust, and that's how a lot of us learn.
Yep. For sure.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being on our
You're welcome.
podcast.
I know.
I enjoyed your story.
And now it's time for the news. Today's topic, of course, getting ghosted.
Yes, or fired.
Happens to every realtor a lot, as we've heard.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but I think it happens to most realtors.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like a lot because I've only done a few deals at this point.
Yeah.
And even things that I thought would turn into business ended up getting ghosted.
Well, yeah, no, I think you're right. I just black it out.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you really want to focus on what is good about what's going on.
Yeah. So, do you want to share what you have first, or do you want me to go?
I mean, you've told me a little bit about what
Yeah.
you have, so I want to hear first. I want to hear you first.
All right. So, I don't know if you're aware, but the California Association of Realtors website has an actual page on there that goes through ethics violators. So if there was a realtor who did something that broke the extensive code of ethics that we do our business by,
Yes.
then they literally, their photo is put there and what they did to break that violation, to violate that code of ethics, and then also what their punishment was.
Yeah. And sometimes it's it looks like a series of mugshots.
Yeah.
Almost like a most wanted list.
Yeah.
Even though everything is already resolved, I think, before they put it on the website.
Yeah.
And they
Yep.
say, hey, these people did wrong.
Right. Yeah, there's when you become a realtor, you put yourself out there it's kind of risky.
And you sign up for a lot of responsibility, which I know
Yeah.
a lot of people don't think about.
Right. So I think I'm going to share with you 2, maybe 3 ones where the violation they did probably resulted in them getting fired by their client.
Yeah.
And even though it's public knowledge of who they are and their photo, because it's on the CAR website for the public to see, I'm not going to mention their name in this story.
Do your research.
Yeah, you have to find out who I'm talking about. Okay, so this realtor, we'll call him John. He was showing property to his client. Yeah, so he is a buyer's agent. In other words, he's not representing the house where this happened at. He's not representing the seller. He's representing a potential buyer who might want to buy this house. So he's showing this property to the client, and the client saw an ATV, a quad, right, in the garage, parked in the garage, and the client was like, "Oh, can we test drive this ATV?" And
no.
right?
The answer is no.
They'd be like saying, "Can we test drive their car?" So, anyways, well, the buyer's agent, John, agreed to test drive the ATV, and he went inside the house and found the keys to them. Well, a neighbor witnessed the realtor driving around the neighborhood on the ATV and went up to him and asked him, "Hey, do you have permission to be riding this ATV?" Because the neighbor knew that it was, his neighbor's.
Yeah.
Well, the agent said, "Yes, I have permission." Well, the neighbors must have told the sellers.
Yeah, because obviously if you're going to stop someone and you know that it's your neighbor's thing, there's a connection there.
So when the sellers discovered what John had done, they contacted their agent, the listing agent. They were very angry about the use of their vehicle, which they had not authorized John to drive. And so, he was turned in, John was turned in, and the panel found that he violated several articles of the Code of Ethics. He had a letter of reprimand placed in his file for 3 years. The agent was fined $5,000 and was required to attend a Code of Ethics class. So I can imagine that buyer probably didn't want to use that realtor anymore.
Yeah, that's...
After finding out about that.
I mean, it's like you said, it's like you went into their house, found the key to their car, whatever car they had in the garage, and then drove it around the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, the ATV is not part of the sale, right? It's personal property, so.
Realtors do real property.
Yeah. Okay, I'll share one more. So this one, we will call them, let's see. I'm going to pause for a second, which I will cut out.
Zip. Familiarize yourself with the story once more.
Oh, here, I'll do this one. This one that you thought you knew. Okay. All right, the next one, we will call her Susie. Okay. So Susie represented a potential buyer. The buyer testified in the Code of Ethics hearing that Susie only showed her properties that were for sale by other agents in Susie's brokerage. And that Susie, her agent, was ignoring the properties that the buyer really wanted to see.
So the buyer was saying, Susie isn't showing me everything on the market, which is a requirement. If you have an agent, they're supposed to show you everything under your criteria. That's
right. Especially if you're like requesting specific types of property and So then the buyer found a property that she wanted to write an offer on, but Susie refused, claiming that she had spoken with the listing agent and didn't believe that the seller would accept their offer. So the buyer made an offer on a different property, and despite some inspections turning up problems with the septic system,
normal.
The buyer's agent, Susie, told her there was nothing wrong with the system and we should finish and go ahead and close escrow. Well, later, this buyer discovered that this was untrue and that there were issues with the system. So the panel, the Code of Ethics violating panel, found that Susie violated several articles.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that the punishment was a little weak, but Susie got a letter of reprimand placed in her file for 3 years and had to attend and complete an online ethics class.
Okay.
And no doubt got fired from her buyer.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and those are kind of particularly bad cases. Just I know we only talked about 2 buyer's agents, but it happens on listings too. And we've talked a lot about getting fired and who has gotten fired, but not much on like how to fire someone.
Right.
So that's what I'm here for. I'm gonna tell you how to fire your realtor.
If you're a buyer or a seller and you want to fire your realtor, like how do you go about doing that? That's what Elijah's going to share with you.
Yeah. So hopefully, in the case where even if you do have to fire them, you have some kind of rapport and trust built with your realtor. And like number one, just communicate with them. Like if you found yourself a realtor that you trust and that you trust, at least in the past, trusted to act in your best interest and they failed you somehow. I mean, I would prefer if my client come to me and say, hey, like you really messed up.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can work with you anymore.
Right. And this particular thing we're talking about is if you're not in contract. So like,
yes,
if you're not like you found a home to buy or you're the listing agent and there's a buyer and that you're in contract.
Like say Susie was your realtor.
Yeah.
And wasn't showing you the properties that you texted. Like, I mean, even I can think of like times when they said, I want to see this property. And in the morning we want to see it. I text them, I say, hey, it went pending.
Right.
But I always say, like, I talk to the listing agent before I tell them it went pending, and I ask if we could still go take a look at it. Like, your realtor should do the extra work to try and still go see the house if you want to.
Right.
Now, but yeah.
But these days we have buyer-broker agreements.
Yes.
And so be careful of what the clause was. Some clauses say that if either party wants to cancel, you have to give 30 days notice.
Yes. That is common for exclusive agreements.
Yeah. And then if there's a particular house that you wanted to buy that they helped you find, or even if you found it, sometimes there's a clause that says that if you buy it within 180 days or however many days it has written in there, after you cancel the buyer broker agreement, you still have to pay that realtor their commission. So
I'm sure we'll talk more about finding the
Yeah.
right realtor for you in
Right.
another episode. But this one, it's like you already found your person, and the first step is to communicate with them. The second step, like to say, hey, I don't think I want to work with you anymore. They'll ask you why, and my recommendation is you tell them why,
yeah,
but you don't, if you've already chosen to like go another path, even if you're like not buying a house, choosing another realtor, whatever it is, make sure I would recommend you tell them why you're firing them, but still fire them,
Yeah.
which sucks to say. Like, no one wants that to happen to them. Like, I don't want it to happen to me.
yeah,
But I'd rather you tell me it's going to happen, tell me why it's happening, and and with all that, I probably wouldn't try to convince you to continue working with me just
Yeah.
because.
I know some realtors they would
Yeah,
fight for their
plenty of
job,
them.
but like if they're not doing what they promised to do,
Yes.
if their communication is poor, especially communication problems, because
Yeah,
it's like,
that's the tough one.
yeah, if you feel like they're never talking to you, be specific.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'd prefer a phone call 3 times a week, or a text me every
Yeah.
day, or let them know how you want to be communicated with.
Exactly. And I mean, that's not particular to buyers, but that'll be the most like intense situation I feel.
Yeah.
But for sellers, a lot of the time when you want to fire your realtor, it's when your house isn't selling.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
it's like we sometimes come into it and we make a lot of promises,
Yeah,
but the market is the market
that's right.
and ends up how it goes. And it could be your realtor's fault, but for the house not selling being the reason you're firing your realtor, my recommendation is to, ask them why it isn't selling.
Yeah,
And if it's being shown, and you're even getting like people thinking of making an offer, like your
Right.
realtor's telling you like, hey, these people are thinking, like blah blah blah, then it's price.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is.
right.
And so there's a lot of reasons that your house wouldn't be selling, making you want to fire your realtor.
It's a whole podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that one
Yeah.
is a very deep topic to go into, but
Oh, we should totally do a podcast on why houses don't sell.
yes. But if you're going to fire a realtor, there's 3 steps. Tell them you're going to fire them, tell them why you're firing them, and then actually fire them. Which, tough to say, but that's how I would recommend going about it.
Yeah. Yep. And again, keep in mind your contracts that you have with them.
Yes.
Your listing, if you're a seller, and the buyer broker agreement if you're a buyer.
Yes. Because you sign an agreement, tells you how long you have to, cool down period.
Yep.
Things like that.
That's right. All right. Well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, we will.